I'm J.M. Hirsch, editorial director at Milk Street, and today we are talking about the savory side of cocktails. So most cocktails can be categorized as sweet or sour or strong, martinis and margaritas, for example. But there's another side of the cocktail world that leans decidedly savory. And this came up recently when I did a video on the fat washing of cocktails. And this is a technique where you infuse a liquor with the flavor of a fatty ingredient, such as butter. I mentioned the idea of doing the same technique with sesame oil, and that prompted a lot of questions about that cocktail. So today we are going to make an Open Sesame cocktail, which is a gin-based cocktail that's been infused with sesame oil. I think a lot of people would be surprised by the number of savory ingredients that they already have in their kitchen that play well in cocktails. I mean, olive oil, for example, miso, one of my favorites, black peppercorns, savory fresh herbs like rosemary, and of course Tabasco sauce or hot sauce. The thing is, much like when you use these ingredients in cooking, when you use them in a cocktail, it's important to balance them because on their own they tend to be heavy and dominant. You want to balance them with lighter and brighter things. So in the case of sesame oil, and frankly in the case of most of these ingredients, you're going to want to balance them with something that's acidic and something that's sweet. So let's make an Open Sesame and see how it works. So to make this cocktail, we're going to do a basic fat wash. And that means we're going to start with about 3 ounces of gin. And I'm going to tell you, anytime you're infusing any liquor, doesn't matter which it is, do not be reaching for the top shelf stuff. You're paying at that point for nuances that you can appreciate in a cleaner cocktail or if you're drinking them neat, but you're going to lose all of that once you start infusing bigger, bolder flavors such as sesame oil. So that is 3 ounces of gin, and now I'm going to add about just over 1/4 ounce of sesame oil. You certainly could use toasted sesame oil as well. It's going to have a richer, bolder flavor, but this is all I have. So we're going to mix these two together, and then we're going to let them sit at room temperature for about 5 minutes. Now that's going to give the gin an opportunity to extract all of the alcohol-soluble flavor compounds that are in the sesame oil. Then we're going to pop it into the freezer for about 10 or 15 minutes. And that's going to cause the oil to kind of coagulate and come together on the surface of the gin. And that's going to make it easier to strain off so that we can make our cocktail. So now that our gin and sesame oil have chilled, the oil has settled on the top, it's come together in a clump, and we can go ahead and make our cocktail. To do that, we're going to start by making some crushed ice. Now, we're going to strain this mixture through crushed ice. And the reason for that is not to chill it, it's also not to dilute it. By straining it through ice, we're going to cause it to seize up a little bit more, and that's going to make it easier to strain out. Best therapy you can buy. All right, so we have our crushed ice. What we're going to do is take a mesh cocktail strainer, and we're going to give it a very thick layer of cheesecloth. We want to trap as much of the oil as we can. It's possible that you'll get a few spare drops of the oil in your drink. That's all right. All right, made a bit of a mess, but we got a lot of the ice in there. All right, now we're going to take our cocktail shaker. I'm going to set our strainer over it, and we're going to slowly pour through our gin and sesame oil and let it strain through into the cocktail shaker, leaving as much of the oil behind as possible. There we go. And as you can see, most of the sesame oil is left behind. All right, we can set that aside. And now we can make our Open Sesame. We're going to start, as often we do, with a few grains of salt because, as in cooking, salt balances the flavors of a cocktail. We're going for brightness. We're going to add about 1/4 ounce of lime juice. Wish I had fresh. I don't. So be it. I'm going to add about 1/4 ounce of agave syrup. If you prefer simple syrup, you can do that too. I just find that more convenient. And now we're going to add ice to our shaker. Put a cap on it and give it a good shake for about 10 seconds. All right, now we're going to take our coupe and we're going to fill that about halfway with crushed ice. And then we strain our Open Sesame over the crushed ice. And there we have it. And that is our lesson in how to balance the savory ingredients in a cocktail on Open Sesame. Cheers.